Captain Max Caldwell had never considered himself a skilled pilot, but he had confidence, perhaps too much. As he lounged in the captain's chair of the SS Voyager, feet propped up on the control panel, he turned to his crew, a grin plastered across his face. Just another routine check, folks. What could go wrong? Famous last words, Captain, Dr. Elara Finch muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration as she examined a holographic display of the star map. We're heading straight for bugfolk territory. Shouldn't we be? Relax, Elara. I've got this under control. Max interrupted, his hands waving dismissively. He glanced at his co-pilot, Sammy Sparks Turner, who was tapping away at a console under control. Huh? Sparks chuckled. I think the only thing under control is your ego. Egos are essential for leadership. Max shot back, his grin widening as he reached for the throttle. Just then, a warning siren blared, lights flashing ominously. That's new. Max. Elara shouted, you're losing altitude. The ship lurched violently, throwing the crew against their harnesses. Max fumbled with the controls, desperately trying to regain stability, but the ship spiraled downward. With a resounding crash, the SS Voyager slammed into an uncharted planet, the impact shaking the very core of the ship. In the aftermath, the crew groaned, disentangling themselves from their harnesses amidst the wreckage. Well, that was a lovely landing, Rhea, the engineer, deadpanned, surveying the mangled control panel. I'm going to need a lot more than duct tape to fix this. Everyone okay? Max asked, brushing dust off his uniform, his bravado slightly shaken. Perfectly fine, thanks to your brilliant piloting. Elara shot back, rolling her eyes. Okay. Let's assess the situation. Max exclaimed, shaking off the criticism. We need to find a communication device and call for help before what? Sparks interrupted, pointing outside where strange, flickering lights danced in the alien jungle. Before the locals get here? The atmosphere outside was thick and humid, filled with the sounds of alien wildlife. As they emerged from the ship, a chorus of unfamiliar chirps and buzzes surrounded them. Max glanced around, feigning confidence. We'll be fine. Just a little walk in the park, a very dangerous park. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled from the depths of the jungle. The crew exchanged nervous glances. That doesn't sound good, Rhea said, her eyes widening. We should split up. Max suggested, but Elara quickly shot down that idea. No splitting up. That's how people die in horror stories. With that, they huddled together, inching toward the source of the growl. As they crept forward, they stumbled upon a clearing filled with peculiar, glowing flora. But just as they relaxed, a massive insect-like creature burst forth from the underbrush, its mandibles snapping. Run! Max screamed, and they took off in different directions, panic driving them. The crew's collective escape was a chaotic spectacle. Sparks tripped over a vine, tumbling face first into a bush of electric thorns, while Rhea barely managed to dodge a pair of gigantic pincers. Elara was sprinting right alongside Max, who was shouting random survival tips he'd seen in movies. Stay calm. Conserve your energy. Easy for you to say. Elara yelled back, nearly slipping in the mud. After what felt like an eternity of frantic running, they finally lost the creature and collapsed into a heap. Gasping for breath, they looked at each other, wide-eyed and exhilarated. Who needs a workout plan when you can just outrun giant bugs? Sparks wheezed, cracking a grin. First order of business, find a way to contact the fleet, Rhea said, already looking for any signs of their ship. That is, if it's still intact. As they made their way back to the wreckage, they found it mostly intact, though the ship's hull had been breached, and several critical systems were offline. Elara knelt next to a console, frowning at the flickering lights. "We need to fix the transmitter. I can rig something up, but I need components from the Bugfolk outpost." "Bugfolk?" Max repeated incredulously. "You mean there are actual bugs here?" "They're sentient beings, Max, not just oversized insects." Elara snapped, adjusting her glasses. "And we need to be careful. They won't take kindly to trespassers." Max attempted to soothe her nerves with a goofy grin. "Look on the bright side. We're in an alien jungle, running from alien bugs. This is like a vacation." "Sure, if your idea of a vacation is life-threatening." Rhea shot back, already gathering tools. After a short rest, they set off deeper into the jungle, determined to locate the Bugfolk outpost. The dense foliage was alive with sounds, hissing, buzzing, and an array of chirps that would give a symphony conductor a headache. As they navigated the underbrush, Max attempted to lighten the mood. "Anyone else think this would make a great reality show? Stranded and Scared, Alien Edition." Sparks laughed. "I can see the promo now. Watch as our crew fumbles through danger." "Great, but can I be the star?" Max said with a wink. "Only if you promise to keep your distance from the Bugfolk," Elara replied, trying to maintain a serious expression. Eventually, they found the Bugfolk outpost, a massive structure made of organic material, pulsing with strange energy. The entrance was guarded by two towering Bugfolk, their antennae twitching as they eyed the newcomers. "Okay, we need a plan," Max whispered, glancing at his crew. "Elara, you speak Bugfolk, right?" "Not exactly. I can communicate scientifically, but they don't tend to respond well to humans," Elara said, shifting nervously. "Great. We'll improvise," Max declared, puffing up his chest. "Time to charm the bugs." As they approached the entrance, Max cleared his throat. "Greetings, noble Bugfolk. We come in peace and with a request." The Bugfolk exchanged glances, their mandibles clicking softly. One of them stepped forward, its compound eyes narrowing. "You trespass. Why should we not eat you?"
Well, Max stumbled over his words, but Sparks quickly chimed in, "Because we taste terrible."
"Just ask my mom," he blurted out, eliciting confused head tilts from the Bugfolk. "Your mom?" the Bugfolk replied, its tone dripping with skepticism. "Yeah. I mean, we're just not fit for dinner. Trust me." Sparks grinned. Max seized the moment, waving his hands dramatically. "What my friend means is that we're looking for a few components for our ship. You'd be doing us a huge favor, and in return, we could, share stories about the cosmos." The Bugfolk considered this, their antennae twitching as they conferred in low tones. Finally, the lead Bugfolk nodded. "If you entertain us, we will provide what you seek." "Entertainment? No problem," Max declared, determination flooding through him. "We're all about theatrics." The crew exchanged nervous glances, but Max grinned, leading them to improvise a performance. They began with a slapstick routine involving exaggerated gestures, a lot of tripping over each other, and nonsensical dialogue. Elara narrated a ridiculous tale about the Great Galactic Pie Competition, where Max, playing the role of a bumbling baker, kept messing up the ingredients. To their surprise, the Bugfolk seemed to enjoy it. Laughter, if it could be called that, rumbled from the creatures as they watched the human antics unfold. Sparks took a turn, delivering a monologue about his adventures in fixing the ship, exaggerating his technical prowess with ridiculous props he found in the outpost that in the end, they had won over their audience. The bug folk clapped their mandibles together, signifying approval, and granted them access to the parts they needed. As they collected the components, Max turned to the crew, a victorious smile on his face. See? A little humor goes a long way. As they made their way back to the ship, they realized that their experience had brought them closer together. The laughter and camaraderie had helped them overcome their fears. Once back at the wreckage, Elara set to work on the transmitter. "If I can just bypass this circuit," she muttered, focused on her task. The others helped by rummaging through the wreckage for additional tools. After several tense hours, Elara finally leaned back, wiping sweat from her brow. "It's done. We can send a distress signal. Finally. Time to call for a rescue." Max cheered, his earlier bravado returning. As Elara activated the transmitter, a crackling sound filled the air. "This is Captain Max Caldwell of the SS Voyager. We're stranded on an uncharted planet and require immediate assistance." "Repeat, we need." Before he could finish, an enormous shadow loomed over them. The crew looked up to see the Bugfolk Queen, an imposing figure with a crown of shimmering exoskeleton. "You dare disturb my hive with your noise?" Max froze, suddenly feeling very small. Just calling for a ride home?" The Queen's compound eyes narrowed, and Max scrambled for a response. "Wait. We can help. We have experience with interstellar travel, like, really good at it." "You humans are amusing," the Queen said, her voice a low, resonant hum. "But what if I desire something in return for your lives?" "Anything." Max blurted, then quickly added, not anything. Just, reasonable requests." The Queen contemplated, her gaze sweeping over the crew. "If you can entertain me with a demonstration of your intelligence, I may reconsider." "Intelligence?" Max repeated, glancing at his crew. "Well, we have a unique understanding of science and creativity." With a wave of her mandibles, the Queen commanded them to perform. As Max stood in front of the intimidating figure, he began explaining the fundamentals of human engineering, combining it with the slapstick routine they had earlier. Rhea joined in, crafting a makeshift demonstration with twigs and vines, making exaggerated motions as if to show how they could repair a spaceship. The Queen watched intently, her interest piqued. The more absurd their performance became, the more she seemed to enjoy it, even mimicking human laughter with her insectoid sounds. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of theatrical antics, the Queen clapped her mandibles together, signaling her approval. "You have amused me, humans. You may go. Your signal is sent, and help will arrive soon." Max and the crew exchanged incredulous glances, hardly able to believe their luck. "Thank you, Your Majesty," Max exclaimed, bowing dramatically. As they prepared to leave, the Queen leaned closer, her expression softening. "Remember, humans, the galaxy is vast, and alliances can be forged in the most unexpected ways." With their transmitter fixed and the Queen's words echoing in their minds, they made their way back to the clearing where they had landed. Soon, the sounds of engines filled the air as their rescue ship descended, a welcome sight amidst the alien landscape. As they boarded, Max couldn't help but smile. "Well, that was quite the adventure. I'm thinking of writing a guide, how to survive an alien planet in 3 easy steps. Step 1, don't crash your ship," Rhea teased, nudging him. "Step 2, make friends with the locals, Sparks added, and step 3, always have a backup plan, like an emergency supply of snacks. Elara finished, shaking her head with a smile. As the ship lifted off, the crew shared a collective sigh of relief, their hearts light with laughter and newfound camaraderie. Max looked out at the sprawling jungle below, the flickering lights of the bugfolk hive gradually fading from view. Who knew survival could be so entertaining, he mused. Just wait until we tell the others, Sparks said, grinning. They won't believe half of this. Next time, I'm flying, Elara declared, her eyes twinkling with mischief. As they rocketed away from the strange world, their laughter echoed through the cabin, a testament to their resilience and the bonds they had forged in the face of adversity. The universe was vast and full of surprises, and they were ready to face whatever came next. Together. As the SS Voyager soared away from the alien planet, the crew settled into a comfortable rhythm, laughter still bubbling up as they recounted their misadventures. Max leaned back in his seat, a satisfied grin stretching across his face. I can't believe we actually made it out of there. I thought for sure the bugfolk were going to keep us for dinner, or worse. I still can't believe you convinced their queen to let us go, Elara said, shaking her head in disbelief. You practically turned a life-or-death negotiation into a comedy routine. Hey, I'm just saying, if you can't charm the pants off a giant bug queen, what's the point of intergalactic travel? Max quipped, glancing at Rhea, who was monitoring the ship's systems. Let's hope our next destination is less entertaining, Rhea replied dryly, though a hint of a smile tugged at her lips. Maybe a nice, quiet planet with no predators and a good supply of snacks. Speaking of snacks, Sparks said, rummaging through the supplies they had stashed. Anyone up for some space peanuts? I think I have a stash in here somewhere. You and your snacks, Rhea laughed, rolling her eyes. You know, we could probably survive on a diet of protein paste for the rest of our lives if it meant avoiding another incident like today. Protein paste doesn't have the same ring to it as intergalactic snacks, Max interjected, grabbing a packet from Sparks. Besides, what's life without a little flavor? As they continued to banter, the ship's controls lit up with warnings. Rhea's expression shifted from playful to serious. Guys? We've got a problem. Max leaned forward, his humor dissipating. What kind of problem? Looks like we've picked up an unauthorized signal, she said, tapping the console to bring up the source. And it's coming from behind us. Unauthorized? Elara echoed, her brows knitting together. Are we being followed? Not exactly. It's more like we're being summoned, Rhea replied, squinting at the readings. It's a distress signal, but the source is fluctuating. It's almost like a trap. Great. Just what we need, Sparks said, his earlier enthusiasm dimming. Another day, another life-threatening situation. Max stood up, determination creeping back into his voice. We can't ignore a distress signal. It could be another crew in trouble. We have to check it out. Max, it could be a trap set by the bugfolk, Elara warned. We barely escaped the last encounter. Or it could be someone who needs our help, he countered, his eyes flashing with resolve. We can't just leave them hanging. After a tense moment of silence, the crew exchanged glances, weighing their options. Finally, Rhea nodded. All right, but let's approach cautiously. We can't afford to be reckless. Max grinned. That's the spirit. Onward to adventure, again. As they adjusted their course toward the source of the signal, the atmosphere in the ship shifted from lighthearted to tense, the crew settling into a focus they hadn't needed since their crash landing. The stars outside twinkled innocently, but the shadow of uncertainty loomed over them. "Coming up on the coordinates," Rhea announced, her fingers flying over the controls. The view screen displayed a small, desolate planet, its surface marred by craters and an eerie silence. "Looks deserted," Sparks remarked, squinting at the screen. "Are we sure this is where the signal is coming from?" "Let's find out," Mac said, his voice steady. "Rhea, can you pinpoint the signal's origin?" "Working on it," she replied, her eyes narrowing in concentration. After a moment, she nodded. "Looks like it's coming from the surface, near the largest crater." "Then that's where we're headed," Max declared, excitement tinged with trepidation. As they descended, the ship shook slightly, the turbulence sending a thrill through the crew. They landed in a clearing near the crater, and after a brief moment of silence, Max turned to the crew. "All right, team. Let's go see what's going on." They stepped onto the barren planet, the ground crunching beneath their boots. The air was thin, and an otherworldly chill wrapped around them. Max pulled his jacket tighter as he scanned the desolate landscape. "Anyone else feel like we've walked onto a set for a bad sci-fi movie?" "More like a horror movie," Elara whispered, glancing around nervously. "This place gives me the creeps." "Let's keep moving," Rhea urged, leading the way toward the signal's origin. The crater loomed ahead, and as they approached, the distress signal grew stronger, a haunting echo that sent shivers down their spines. Suddenly, they rounded a bend and came face to face with a small, battered spacecraft, its hull blackened and riddled with scorch marks. "Looks like someone had a rough landing," Sparks observed, peering at the damaged ship. "Let's see if anyone's inside," Max suggested, stepping forward cautiously. He tapped on the door, which creaked open with a mournful groan. "Hello," he called into the darkness. "Is anyone there?" A figure stumbled into view, a disheveled humanoid, clearly injured and disoriented. "Help, please," the stranger gasped, collapsing to the ground. Elara rushed forward, kneeling beside the individual. "I'm a doctor." "What happened?" "Ambush. Bug folk, we were," the stranger stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "We tried to escape, but they, bug folk? Here?" Sparks echoed, glancing nervously at Max. "Yes. They're everywhere. You have to help," the stranger pleaded, his eyes wide with fear. Max exchanged a quick glance with his crew. "We can help you, but we need to know what we're up against." "How many are there?" "Too many. They're gathering for an attack." "They want our ship," the stranger replied, gasping for breath. "You must leave this place." "Not without you," Max insisted, determination creeping back into his voice. "Elara, can you stabilize him?" "I can try," Elara said, pulling out a small medical kit and starting to assess the stranger's injuries. "But we need to move quickly." As she worked, Max turned to the others. "We can't just leave him here. We need to get him back to our ship and then figure out our next move." "Are we sure we want to attract the bug folks' attention?" Rhea asked, glancing back at the crater. "If they find us here, we'll have a whole swarm on our hands. We don't have a choice." "If we leave him, he'll die," Max replied firmly. "We need to split up. Rhea and I will get him back to the ship. Sparks, Elara, stay here and keep an eye on things." "No way. We stick together," Sparks countered, his voice rising. "I'm not about to let you two face off against an army of bugs alone." "Then we all go," Rhea said decisively. "But we need a plan." If we run into trouble, we need to be ready to defend ourselves. Elara finished her initial assessment, looking up. He's stable, but he won't last long. We need to move now. Max nodded, quickly formulating a plan. All right, we'll head back to the ship and figure out our next move from there. Stay close, and be on high alert. As they moved cautiously toward their ship, the oppressive silence of the barren landscape felt heavier with each step. The air crackled with tension, and Max couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Just as they reached the ship, a loud roar echoed across the plains, sending a shockwave of fear through the crew. Max's heart raced as he turned to the others. Run! They rushed inside, quickly securing the hatch as the ground trembled beneath them. Rhea immediately took to the controls, her fingers flying over the buttons. We need to get out of here now. Is the signal still active? Sparks asked, glancing nervously out of the viewport. It's still broadcasting, but I can't tell if it's drawing them in or not. Rhea replied, urgency coloring her voice. Max turned to the injured stranger, who was now conscious but clearly in pain. Can you walk? Barely, but I'll try, he said, grimacing as he attempted to rise. Help him, Elara urged, moving to assist him. We can't leave anyone behind. With a few moments of effort, they managed to help the stranger into a seat. Rhea input the launch sequence, and the ship's engines roared to life, shaking as they prepared for takeoff. As the ship lifted off the ground, Max peered out the viewport, watching as the shadows of bug folk began to emerge from the edge of the crater. They were swarming, their forms moving with a predatory grace. We need to go, Rhea, he shouted. I'm working on it, she replied, sweat beading on her forehead. Come on, come on. With a final surge, the ship broke free from the planet's atmosphere, and the crew exhaled a collective sigh of relief. Max collapsed into his seat, heart racing. That was too close. Are we clear? Sparks asked, looking at the readings on the console. For now, Rhea replied, her eyes still fixed on the screen. But they'll be after us. We need to find a place to regroup and figure out our next steps. Maybe somewhere without a population of giant bugs? Elara suggested wryly, tending to the stranger's wounds as best she could. Let's head to the nearest space station, Max said, glancing at the star map. We can rest, regroup, and plan our next move there. As Rhea plotted their course, Max looked at the stranger. What's your name? Jax, he replied, his voice shaky. I'm grateful you found me. I thought I was done for. Glad we were able to help, Max said. But we need to get you to safety. You've had a rough day. Not as rough as your day, I'd say, Jax replied, a faint smile creeping onto his lips despite his pain. Fair point, Max laughed, the tension in the ship easing slightly. But we'll make it through this. Together. As they navigated the stars, the crew settled into a rhythm, each person silently acknowledging the bond they had forged through their shared trials. They had faced danger, laughter, and now uncertainty together, and whatever lay ahead, they would face it as a team. Next time, Rhea murmured, breaking the silence, let's pick a planet with better Yelp reviews. Max chuckled, his heart lifting at the familiar banter. Agreed. But for now, let's get Jax patched up and figure out how to avoid the bug folk next time. The stars twinkled around them, a vast expanse of possibilities and adventures yet to come. They were alive, together, and ready for whatever the universe had in store. And somewhere out there, the unknown awaited, full of new friends and old foes, laughter and danger intertwined. They had already defied the odds once, and they were ready to do it again. As they hurtled through the void, the crew of the SS Voyager knew that the Real adventure was just beginning. The story ends here.